What's up, guys? It's Chris from Pursuit of Possibility. Welcome to my channel. It's on a mission to shape a world with less mental suffering and more people experiencing the joy of living fully and living powerfully. I've got a special guest today, my brother, my buddy, and my speaking coach, Joe.
What's up, brother?
What's up, man?
How are you?
Not too bad. Good to have you.
Thanks for having me, yeah.
Of course, yeah. So let's cut to the chase. Most people fear public speaking more than death. You know, we've all felt that feeling in our gut when we're about to give a presentation or speak in front of a group. My question to you is, where does that come from and how do we overcome it?
Totally, man. That's a great question. And again, thank you for having me on the channel. I love
course.
the work that you're doing, and it's great to see you progressing, right, as you start your own professional speaking career and the work that we've done. And what's interesting is one of the reasons that I love public speaking so much, and we've seen this in you, is like not only when you get into something as a speaker, as a coach, as an entrepreneur, whatever it is, are you growing as a speaker or a coach or whatever that thing is, but you're also growing as an individual.
Absolutely.
So it's sort of like a natural progression, and this is something that we've talked about. It's like, hey, if I want to be a motivational speaker, I need to be in alignment with the things that I'm preaching on stage or the things that I'm telling to my audience members. So I think that's super cool, and it's always great to see with the clients that I work with in that capacity as they grow their careers and their businesses, they also grow as individuals and they develop. So super interesting to see. But when it comes to the fear of public speaking, I know we've talked about this, but it's the Jerry Seinfeld quote of, you know, that means that if people fear public speaking more than death, that means that they would rather be in the casket than giving the eulogy at a funeral. And it's just such an interesting thing, and it's such an interesting concept. It seems so preposterous, but it's a very real fear for a lot of people. And so we really need to dig down into where that comes from, right? And so what I always tell people is like, you don't fear public speaking. The thing that you fear is social ostracism, right? And so we go back to our evolution, and we're a tribal species, and we're meant to, and we need group, and we need connection, and we need social interaction. We need to be a part of a tribe, because back in the day, from an evolutionary perspective, if we didn't have a tribe and we were out on our own and we were ostracized, we were probably going to die within a matter of minutes. You
That's
know, that
crazy to think about.
Tiger was coming, and so that fear still lives within us. And when we get on stage, you know, all those fears are there of what if I mess up? What if things don't go well? What if, you know, people ostracize me because of something that I say or something that I do? So I think that's one of the big things. And then the other big piece that I see with a lot of my clients and a lot of individuals is, again, I say you don't fear public speaking, you fear social ostracism, or, you know, there was some type of trauma or something in your life that happened that now leaves you with this fear of public speaking. And it's not only a fear of public speaking, it's a fear of expressing yourself. A fear of expressing what's on your heart, what's on your mind, and what your truth is to the world, because when you were younger, that was always suppressed. You were told by your parents to don't do that, or you're crazy, or don't be too much, or you know, maybe you gave a speech when you were younger and a teacher said something to you like, you know, that wasn't good enough. And so now we've ingrained this belief into our brains that our message doesn't matter, and that, you know, our truth doesn't matter, and what's on our hearts doesn't matter. And so, you know, the thought of public speaking and getting up and actually speaking on what's on our hearts and what's on our minds is way too daunting for us. And again, you know, I'll relate this to life, is like why public speaking is such a powerful skill to foster, and why that kind of trauma or that belief is important to dig down and get past, is because that doesn't only relate to public speaking, but that relates to our careers, that relates to our relationships, that relates to every other aspect of our lives. Like if we're not living with what we truly want in our cores, then we're going to end up with a life that we don't truly want. We're going to end up with a relationship where we're always frustrated, or we're always at war with someone, because one, we either don't know what's at our core, or we're afraid to speak it, you know, because of past traumas and because of past limiting beliefs that have been ingrained and conditioned into us, if that makes sense. So those are the big two things that I always tell people: is you don't fear public speaking, you fear social ostracism, and then two, you know, there's probably, you know, more likely than not, what I've seen with a lot of people, this fear of expressing yourself, this fear of truly speaking what's on your mind, and feeling like almost like your message doesn't matter or it's not worthy. If you can get past those two things, you can really open yourself up to be a powerful public speaker and impact a lot of people.
Yeah, you know, I was thinking to myself, what's the cost of going to your grave with your song and dance still stuck in your heart?
Totally.
And a big thing you're hitting on is this is a matter of self-expression.
Totally.
You know, it's easy to bottle ourselves up based on, past trauma or someone that said, we were too much. That's something I resonated with, by the way.
Totally.
I'm sure a lot of us have been told, you're too much, or,
Relax.
I think of someone I know that grew up with a parent that said, if you don't have anything good to say, don't say anything, or, I can even think of our parents' generation, like children should, what's that expression, like, be seen and not heard? Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
You wonder how that shapes you, but what is the cost of not being fully expressed in your mind?
Totally, man. Well, I mean, there's the personal cost, right, that I think we all can feel. Again, I think back on like relationships that I might regret the most, or things in my life that I regret the most, and it was the times when, I know this is a little cliche, but it was the times when I didn't go all out. I didn't go all into something, and I held back a little bit. At least if I went all into something and it didn't work, at least, I'm probably still a little bummed of like, hey, things didn't work in the way that I wanted or the way that my ego wanted things to play out. But at least I can say that I went for it. At least I can say that I went all into it, and, I'm not left wondering at night, was there more that I could give? Was there more that did I leave something on the table today? Did I leave something on the table in pursuing that career, relationship, whatever it is? And I love the quote from Henry David Thoreau, is that most men live lives of quiet desperation.
Oh, yeah.
So many of us are living in these lives where we have this urge, this passion, something more within us, right? But we're not speaking it, or we're not fully expressing it because of fear, because we have a job that holds us back, because of, just that fear of being seen and putting ourselves out there and being rejected. I was reading something or heard something the other day that talked about, fully loving and fully opening ourselves up and being vulnerable is one of the scariest things in life that we can do, because you're opening yourself up and saying, hey, I am open, I'm committed to this person, or I'm committed to this thing, and that inevitably opens you up to the prospect of rejection. And so, to your point, what's the cost is one, again, there's the personal cost of what if, you know what I mean? What if I spoke my mind? What if I went for what I wanted? Going to your grave with your song and dance, like, that's a very real fear. And I think at a young age, like we are, young in our 20s, a lot of people don't think about that stuff. But, that's the biggest fear for me is waking up at 80, 90 years old and regret. I wish I did this, I wish I did that. And then the second piece that I would say, the cost, is, man, don't even think about yourself. Think about all the people that you could be impacting.
Yes.
And so one of the things that I ground myself in before I give a speech is, this isn't about you, Joe. This speech is not about you. It's not about your ego. It's not about getting gratified. If you do a good job, all that stuff's going to get taken care of. You're going to feel good inside. You're going to get gratified, all that stuff.
Yeah.
But this is about the person in the audience that needs to hear your message. This is about the person in the audience that was at the point that you were at, your sophomore year of college, lowest point in your life, that really, really needs to hear your message today. And so make it about them and not about you. And I think that's the other cost, is that if we're not fully expressing ourselves, if we're not fully giving our gifts to the world, it's not so much, yes, it's about you and you're going to feel crappy about it, but there's people out there that need to hear your message, that are where you've been, and the transformation you've gone through will help them. So you almost have a duty and an obligation to the world to share that with others.
Yeah, that last part really resonates. I was at a seminar recently. This is the most, the longest standing seminar, personal growth seminar, and most successful in the United States. It's great. It's called PSI, if you guys want to check it out. And the seminar leader talked about, being a giver and how givers gain. And there are also takers. He said one of the greatest takes, or the worst ways of taking, is robbing the world of experiencing your true self and your full self and your gift. So he actually was really tough on us. We did a game that demonstrated giving and taking, and win-win, win-lose, lose-take scenarios. He called it out, consider that if you're playing small and not giving yourself fully to the world and sharing your gift, then that's one of the worst forms of taking there is.
Totally.
So.
Yeah, totally. It's almost like this selfish thing, and I think you and I can relate to this as well. It's the same thing with depression. It's the same thing oftentimes with depression, or anxiety, where we step into a room and we're socially anxious because we worry that other people are thinking about us, or they're talking about us, or whatever it is. It's like, hey, you're not that important. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and
you are special, you are unique, but
There's a selfish component, and I actually am about to release a video about cognitive distortions, and one of those is jumping to conclusions, and specifically mind reading. And so you can see there, like, that's to think that we're Professor Xavier and can read people's minds. You know, it's not the case, but you assume someone in the audience, like, they're I talked about an example, maybe they're checked out, they're not paying attention, you're like, oh, I have a horrible speech and it's all about me, when in fact maybe they partied really hard the night before, or they got a text message with bad news. So it's just pointing back to that fact of, like, it's easy to jump to conclusions, and second of all, it's easy to make it about us, especially when we're, you know, if we're anxious.
Totally, man. You know, and life's a mirror, and I think this is why, you know, I heard from one of my mentors, one of my coaches, right, because I'm a coach and I also have a coach myself, is that a good coach is someone who holds up the mirror to someone and says, hey, why don't you take a look at yourself and see what this is reflecting back to you, right? So if you're feeling insecure, or you're feeling like people are, you know, this is something I've noticed in myself, people don't want to see you and all that stuff, it's you know, there's nothing's external in this world. We make things up internally in our minds, and then we project that, and that becomes our reality. And this is something Tony Robbins talks about. You can change a person's belief, you can change their life. You change what you truly believe, in your core belief at your core of what your being is, and you can change that from I am not lovable to I am lovable. Something I see a lot with my clients, to I am not worthy or I am not good enough to I am plenty enough. And if we can consciously change that belief and get it ingrained at a subconscious level, there's no telling what you can do as an individual. And again, this is kind of going more into the coaching side of my business, but one of the things that I really enjoy about being a coach is, you know, the cognitive distortions. It's like, it's really, really, it's hard sometimes to read the label from inside the jar. So it's like, you know, you have flaws, I have flaws, things in my life that I want to get better at. And I think it's also often a lot easier for me to maybe see some patterns in you that you might not be able to see, or for you to see some patterns in me that I might not necessarily see, which is why I think it's so important to have a coach, to have a therapist, to have someone in your life, a good relationship that really can hold up the mirror in a loving and kind way and say, hey man, you know, X, Y, and Z is going on, and I've noticed over these past couple of sessions this pattern with you. Where do you think that's coming from? Or just to really call you out on something, right? This was kind of a conversation we had earlier where I was like, hey man, holding space, and that's something that I called you out on a little bit, and you were like, yeah, you know, actually, you know, someone in my past has told me that, so I completely understand that. And now it's like, you know, if we can shed awareness to something, if we can shed light on something, then we have the ability to change it, and then we have the ability to flip it and into something that's more prosperous and that's going to serve us at a higher level. Absolutely. So I've heard it said that awareness is the first stage, and considering a new perspective, and then taking action, and perhaps that looks like working on beliefs, and changing those beliefs is the next step. Now, I want to finish this out with some practical strategies on how to overcome the fear of public speaking and be more successful in public speaking, because I think we can all agree there is such an impact to being fully expressed and sharing a message, whatever that message might be that you guys are passionate about. There's an impact to being able to share that with people and make a difference. So we talked about a few tips already, you hit it one or two, but how would you round out the advice to the audience on overcoming that fear of public speaking? Totally, man. So the first thing I would say is, hitting on your point, is like, you know, speaking is, and public speaking, professional speaking, whatever you want to call it, is one of the best kind of broad scale ways to have impact, right? And I love coaching and one-on-one and working with individuals, because we can really get deep into who they are as an individual, and you can really impact on a one-to-one kind of soul level, and you can get deep, and you can really impact a life. And even group coaching, which, you know, we have a group here that we're starting up in Austin, is like you can really impact, and there's a lot of ability for positive change and positive momentum to occur in that type of setting. But speaking in whatever the form is, whether it's a podcast, whether it's a YouTube channel, whether it's on Instagram, or, you know, the best kind, in my opinion, whether it's in person in front of, you know, an audience of thousands of individuals, is one of the most at-scale ways to really impact lives and to really positively change and get your message out there to the world, which is why I think it's such an important skill to foster in one's life, is the ability to speak in front of a crowd and to get your message out there. Because like we talked about, you know, you can really impact and change someone's lives positively, or at least give them that kind of spark to start, and this is something that you experienced at going to this conference. It's like, man, we saw with you, we had a conversation, you went to this personal development conference, and it was almost like this line in the sand for you. I think the conversation we had, and then you going to the conference where there was speakers, and it was a large scale, where it was like, man, there's some aspects of my life that I really want to tighten up. There's some aspects of my life where I haven't been living up to my full potential, all because you went and you saw a powerful speaker over a couple, day period, and you went to the seminar. So back to your question, that's, I just wanted to hit on that, on the importance and the power and the impact that public speaking can have. But back to your question of how to overcome the fear. First is the awareness, right? And first is saying, hey, this is something I'm fearful of. So I'll give an example. A little over a year ago now, I really got into what is called cold approaching women, right? And so going up to a woman in the park and just, telling her, hey, I thought you were good looking. I just wanted to say hello. I just wanted to introduce myself. I don't really go to bars, that stuff. And I found this was a kind of better way for me to meet women in the context that I wanted. But the first step for me was to say, hey, this is something that's freaking scary for me. This is something that when I think of doing it, like, it makes me feel very anxious and it's very scary to me. And then the next step that I took is what is called systemic desensitization. So the first thing that I did is I saw a girl in the park and I went up and I just asked her for the time. I said, hey, my phone's dead. My phone was off and was on low battery. Do you happen to have the time? Like, that was super scary to me. And then I started slowly getting into, hey, I just wanted to introduce myself. And so over time, you kind of do those things, and it lessens the fear. It's a great way to, lessen and reduce anxiety, to the point now where, I feel a lot more comfortable. The anxiety's still there a little bit, as it is with public speaking, but I feel a lot more comfortable if I see a girl that I'm attracted to and pulled to go up and say hello to her and introduce myself and, start a conversation. So I think the same thing can be done for public speaking, but first we have to shed the awareness and the light on it. First we have to say, hey, this is something that I'm scared of. This is something that is, a little frightening to me and a little intimidating. So let me take small steps. And for someone, it can be something like hopping on a podcast, hopping on Instagram Live and posting a story, and just doing stuff that kind of makes us uncomfortable. So that's from a sort of a willpower perspective. But I would say simultaneously as well, Chris, is, again, recognizing that you don't necessarily fear public speaking so much as you do social ostracism and putting yourself out there, but then also really trying to dig down deep into what are potential traumas or what are potential things that leave me scared. Are there things from my past, and this is something I'm still continuing to do around money, around success, around all that stuff. Are there limitations in self-limiting beliefs that I have placed on myself, or is there something that happened in my past that has kind of halted me or blocked me from fully expressing myself? And if there is, let's dive deep into those things. And I think this is something we've done simultaneously with you, is that, hey, we're doing this business side and pulling out public speaking, but also like, hey man, let's also dig down into the limiting beliefs that come up as you go along this process. Like, I've put off maybe emailing this person, or I've put off like actually getting out there and speaking. Okay, why is that? Is there a limiting belief there? Is there some fear, whatever it is? And so again, when we see these negative emotions or these uncomfortable situations, as opposed to running from them, which I think our ego instinctively wants to do, is actually sitting in that discomfort, really putting ourselves in that place of like, I'm going to feel this discomfort, I'm going to recognize it, I'm going to maybe understand where it comes from, and then I'm going to shatter it, and I'm going to get past it. Because the end goal and what I want to do with this, my passion for public speaking, my passion for helping others and getting my message out there, is so much greater than this silly little thing that we call fear. And it's like, man, we have two choices every day. We can live in fear, we can live in love. So live in love, live in courage. And again, just kind of understand where that fear might come from of public speaking, of, and it could even be, dude, currently in your life, there are people where you don't feel heard, and you feel like your message does not matter today because some of your friends, don't hold space for you. So it's really digging down into more than just the fear of public speaking, is the fear of expressing yourself, fear of putting yourself out there, and potential self-limiting beliefs that might hold you back of, I don't have a message, it doesn't matter. I don't have a story, it doesn't matter. It's like, if we can shatter those things, this is something I've had to do as a coach, right? Because this is something I've stepped into over the past couple months of like, man, am I really worth that price? Am I really worth that? And it's something I've had to, get past my own self-limiting beliefs. It's like, if I can transform someone's life in 12 weeks, that's a no-brainer price. And it's something I'm finally starting to embody and step into as an individual of like 100% I'm worth that price, because the transformation that I can enact on someone as an individual is priceless, you know? So again, man, I think stepping into those fears, knowing that they're there, knowing that you're not faulty for having them, but to your point, you're doing yourself and the world a great disservice if you don't lean into those fears and slowly start to shatter them to become the best version of yourself and to fully express yourself to the world around you. And coming back to that quote of like, hey, if you're scared of something, I get it, but you know, be scared of living a life of quiet desperation. Fear's a motivator, right? Regret's a motivator. So I get it. You know, it's fearful to step forward. It's fearful to go up and, you know, maybe say hello to that girl. It's fearful to go out and express yourself fully. But what are the consequences of the other side of not doing so in your life? What would your life look like if you consistently made this a habit, you know, in 5-10 years, as opposed to what would your life look like in 5 to 10 years if you dialed in your habits and you were locked in on a daily basis? Who could you be? Where could you be in your life if you stayed disciplined? So yeah, I think that's a little.
Absolutely. Yeah, I love ending on that note of where could you be if you stayed disciplined, if you really invest in yourself. I think as we develop our self-worth, our bank account goes up, our relationships improve, and we end up being more fulfilled than we ever thought was possible. So guys, this channel is committed to being that mirror, like we talked about earlier, that reflects back at you your greatness. It's committed to you having the life that you want. You're totally worthy of it. And I found that in working with Joe as a coach, around speaking, around just my broader life. That's been an investment I made in myself that really signaled I'm worth it, and I've gotten so much out of working with you. So thank you for what you do, helping me out, and speaking wise, you're such a contribution to people. I just want to make sure that you know, the crew here, my possibility people, can find you on social media or get in touch. So what's the best way to do that?
Totally, man. I appreciate that.
Oop.
So social media
Got the mic here.
Yeah. So you good?
I had some mic problems today, guys. Hopefully it's not too distracting, but hey.
So yeah, man.
Vulnerability.
That's it, man. That's what it's about. Being honest,
yeah.
Right? Being transparent, one of my highest values. And first of all, man, I want to say again, you know, I appreciate you. You show up every week and you put in the work. And again, we talk about this as like celebrating the little wins, right? Of, you know, the little things that you've done every single week to get better in your personal and your professional life. Is like, it's not going to happen like that. It's like anything else in life. It's not going to happen at the snap of a finger, but it's the little incremental changes that we make every single day to get better as individuals. And then we look back on a year, it's like, this is something I've been doing, is because I moved down here to Austin coming up on a year now, and my life there's never been as much growth or much change in my life than there has been this past year. It's been wild. And it's been super uncomfortable, man. It's been super lonely. It's been super like, I don't know if I can do this, but with that comes a massive amount of growth and a massive amount of transformation for the positive as an individual. And so it's super, super inspiring to see, you know, clients and individuals like yourself really grow and to be like, hey, this work matters and it has an impact. When it comes to finding me, I'm on Instagram at joe.johnston28, joe.johnston, Johnston 28. You can also find our business account at MII Professional Speaking on Instagram. But I would say reaching out there, just shoot me a DM saying what's up, saying that you like the episode, and however we can serve, you know, that's what we're here to do.
Absolutely, my brother. Well, this has been a pleasure. You dropped a lot of value bombs here today. And guys, thanks for showing up and going on the journey with us. Hope you got something out of the video. Make sure to like the video and share for other people that need to hear the message, and subscribe to Pursuit of Possibility for more positive perspective and practical strategies to live life fully. Love y'all, and talk soon.